All right, so the last piece of the puzzle that we need to do is be able to add our arrays to our nested arrays to our larger arrays. And so let's see how we can do that. The first thing I've done here is I've just set up kind of a skeleton to get things rolling for us. This should look familiar to you already. I have a flag that's setting my while loop, so as long as more players is equal to lowercase y. And then in my loop, I'm getting a input from my user and I'm converting it to lowercase. So if they put a capital Y or a lowercase y, lowercase will be put into my more players variable. And so my condition will always be set to a lowercase y. And I set up a blank scores array that's going to be maintaining my scores. And then here I print it out. And so the idea here is I'm going to put in scores. Let me just put the purpose of our program here. Purpose. We will get usernames, get player names, and score, and score, and we'll print that out. Okay, had a cat on my desk here, which made it a little bit harder to type. Okay, so that's the idea behind what we wanted to do. So let's just run that and make sure that it's working. Enter another player score. So if I put in a capital Y, it should keep looping. If I put in a lower y, it should keep looping. And then if I put in anything else, it'll exit the loop and print out a blank array. So it's doing exactly what I'd hoped to do at this point. And so now we want to start putting in nested loops, nested arrays, nested lists inside our scores array. And so here's how we're going to do that. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to get the player's name. So input, and then I'm just going to shorten it for brevity here. Player's name. Okay. And once we get the player's name, I also need to get the score. Score equals, and this is something we've done 1,000 times before, so this should look familiar. Input, score. Again, for brevity, I'm going to make that very short. Okay, so now we're getting in an integer and we're getting in a player's name. So the next thing we need to do is put these values into a list or an array. So I'm just going to call it entry equals, and I'm going to put those into a bracket, score and name. So by doing this syntax here, I'm taking whatever the value is of score and whatever the value is name, and I've put it inside these brackets indicating that I'm putting it into a list or an array, and I'm putting that array into this variable. And so then all I need to do is append this list to scores. So let's see that happen. So scores.append, and I'm going to put in that list that I just created and assign to entry. And so let's see if this actually works. Let's run it. So I'm going to just put in 2, put in my name and a score of 25, and another player score. I'll put in a yes. Player's name will be Bart, and Bart will have 25. So now I'm done, and we'll in fact see that we've created, by printing out scores, scores is an array that has arrays inside of it, nested arrays. There's one of them that was created. And so this is scores of 0, and this is scores of 1. And then to get in at the individual elements, I could, like if I wanted to get at 25, let's say, that would have been scores of 0 and another bracket of 0. So let's just see, let's try that. Let's do scores of 0. We'll keep scores there. So we'll print scores of 0 and 0. And then we'll print, just so we can see it working, and maybe we'll print scores of 0 and 1. So what we're doing is hard coding in, after we're done, would be printing out the very first element here. So we're printing out scores 0 of 0 in this case, and then scores 0, which is all of this, of element 1. So let's run that one more time and we'll see that working. So I'll put in the same values just so we can see it work again. It's 25. Player, enter another player, yes. Bart, and 25, no. And this time we in fact see exactly that. So our scores array is filled with more than one nested array, and then we just hard coded out our first element of 0 and our first element of 1. So this is how we could create an element in a loop, and then we can append that element to a larger array that is storing all of our data, such as username and high scores. So that is the missing piece of the puzzle, and hopefully that'll help you work on your high scores assignment for this week.